What is up, my compadres? In this episode, we are going to take a deep dive into the dark underworld of Iranian society. When you think about Persians or Iranians, you usually think about the government, which is the Islamic Republic. When you think about Islam or the Middle East, you think about prohibition of alcohol, prohibition of drugs, and an overall conservative culture. But there's an entire underworld that you don't know about. An underworld that I had to grow up in. I've always felt very uncomfortable talking about this stuff because I was worried people would judge my family. But then I thought, if I could help one or even two people get through some hard times because they went through the same shit, then maybe it's best that I talk about it. Drugs were a big part of my life for as long as I could remember. And when I say that they were a big part of my life, I'm not talking about the point of view of someone who is an abuser or a user, because I've never liked that stuff. But the point of view of a victim, having to grow up surrounded by that bullshit. And for most people, it's an alcoholic uncle or an alcoholic father. For me, I was surrounded by it 360 degrees. One of my earliest memories growing up as a baby was family friends coming over and gathering around the stove. I saw a bottle that was pierced, and inside the bottle, there's a tube that was the casing of a pen. On top of that, there was this type of tin foil. I then saw people take what was the remains of a clothes hanger, which was metal, and they'd hold it against a flame until the metal turned bright red, then inhale smoke through the bottle. When I asked what that was, they told me it was called Novat. I never really questioned it after that. All I knew was that there were cigarettes, and when we were smoked in the house, I had a really hard time breathing. That's part of the reason I developed asthma as a child. When they smoked Novat, the smell was 100 times worse, and I hated it. People wonder why I hate cigarettes, weed, vapes, etc. Well, today, you're going to find out why. It was during my first trip to Iran where I truly understood the magnitude of what was going on, how deeply my family was rooted in drugs, how drugs played such a big role in a lot of people's lives, and how drugs built a community. Many extremely successful people I saw who were lifelong drug users. Let's talk about my first trip to Iran. I was only 7 years old. I remember getting off the plane, seeing my dad for the first time ever in my life, and being so happy. I saw all these amazing family members I never met before. I saw memories of my father's family. People were dressed really conservatively. Everyone gathered around to hug me and hold me. There had to be about 100 people. It was one of the greatest memories ever. Then I saw my mother's side of the family. Even with the hijab on, they had makeup, earrings, expensive clothing, and purses. The men were dressed very fashionably as well. It was a big clash of cultures. Shortly after that, we went to my maternal grandfather's house. It was my grandfather's house. My grandmother lived there, one of my uncles, his wife, and 2 kids. I'm going to leave out the names of this story out of respect, but I'll never forget what I saw when I got there. I saw this circular, the top left corner of the living room, this circular tray, I guess we could call it. And it was right next to the fireplace. In this giant bowl, there were pieces of charcoal. And I would later find out that the name of this large bowl with charcoal in it was called a mangal. Manghal. You could Google this to get a better image. And also in this bowl was a teapot. I was very curious what this was. By the way, guys, I am reading a script off of what I wrote, so it's a little different. If you could notice the cadence of the podcast is a little different. I want to try maybe doing this more. Just know that sometimes when I go page down, I'm using Google Docs and it completely goes down 2 pages, so that sucks. But anyway, I was very curious to what this was. After we said hello and unpacked all our stuff, I saw my uncle sit down with his wife and a bunch of friends. They pulled out this 8 to 10 inch long object that kind of represents like a flashlight. I'll later find out this called a balfour. At the tip of it, they pasted this black gooey substance. Then they used one of these flaming hot charcoals to hover over the black surface and started inhaling. I had no idea what the fuck was going on. And as a 7-year-old kid, I was pretty shocked. The smell was absolutely disgusting. I couldn't wait to get out of the room. My uncle then passed the balfour to a friend, and they did the same thing. After a few minutes, everyone in the room was laughing, smiling, and having a great time. As far as the kids go, we were in our own little corner playing. I noticed my 2 cousins were really grumpy when they picked us up from the airport. They seemed really uneasy and fidgety. But after a few minutes in the room, they were too happy. They were both very happy and ecstatic. I would later find out that the substance these people were smoking was opium, one of the most addicting drugs on the planet, and that 2 of my cousins were a victim of second-hand addiction. Sit back and relax, guys. You are about to enter the world of opium.